the McAllister Scouting Report. Part of that is my podcast today with in Coach's Corner. My guest is a recent graduate of Ohio State University, football player, played at Kentucky, and he graduated from high school at Dublin Coffman. And he came to one of my camps when he was like a sophomore in high school, I think. So Gunnar Hoak he's working with young people now. It's not a full-time job, obviously, but he's working with quarterbacks. And today he spends time talking about different qualities a quarterback must have, intangibles a quarterback must have, and some of his experiences going through the process of being a quarterback. He is also doing some work with middle school, junior high, young people who aspire to be quarterbacks. Sit back, listen. I think you'll learn a lot about the quarterback position from Gunnar Hoak. Thank you. Gunnar Hoak, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. First, I'd like to say thank you for having me on the show. Pleasure to be on with you.
Well, the first time I ever saw you, you were a little scraggly guy standing down at that soccer place, I think. You were coming to my camp, I think. And
yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah,
that's a long time ago. And I remember going up to you and saying, "Hey, man, you got to talk a little bit. You got to get after a little bit. But you did a good job." And it's great to talk to you too. And anything I can do to help, I'll do that because I consider you one of the guys I have had. Okay, let's talk about, your quarterback, college quarterback, high school quarterback in Dublin Coffman. And what are you doing now personally? You graduated from O State, last year or 2 years?
Yeah, last January, so about a year ago.
So what are you doing now then?
Currently working at a place called Locust Logistics, just a third-party company, just moving freight around the country.
That's really good. That's good. I have a guy here in Upper Sandusky that he works for some company down there too, logistics, and he's able to work kind of out of his home now some, so that's really good.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. Okay, and then the reason I have you on, obviously, is not talk about that. I'd like to talk about what you're doing as a part-time job.
Yeah, recently have gotten into training middle school, kind of young freshman quarterbacks. Whenever I can, really kind of doing one-on-one sessions for an hour, maybe 2 hours. I've tried to get into doing some group sessions here in the winter, if I can find an indoor spot here and there. But yeah, really enjoying it, trying to take it somewhere, I guess, for the future.
That sounds really good. And I remember talking to you about a year ago, and I kind of put it off because I didn't want you to make this your full-time job. So some guys think they can, and it ain't a full-time job, but you'll get better and better at it, I'm sure. And you're starting from someplace, and I'm not so sure that starting with junior high kids isn't the best thing. I think it's the best thing. No, it really is, I think, or your level, middle school, junior, because you get them the very basics and stuff.
Exactly.
But okay, let's go back to now. We know what you're doing now, and now Trace. Let's go back in history a little bit. You graduated from Dublin Coffman as a quarterback, and how many years did you start there? 2?
I played a little bit sophomore year, started a couple games, and then junior and senior year was a starter.
What did you learn about high school being a high school quarterback?
It takes a lot. I mean, as a high school QB, that's when players around you really look up to you to be the leader, and that's when you kind of have that first experience of it. And it can be challenging at times, but that's when you have to learn and go as you go, I guess. I mean, see what happens.
How much work we're talking about high school now, how much work did you have to do in the off season? I forget. Did you play
Uh,
basketball? I
I didn't
forget.
play basketball. I only played baseball, so had a little bit of off season, as you can say. But the football off season is year round. Obviously, you got, as a quarterback at least, you got to be always throwing, working on your mechanics. Can't really let that slip in your mind, and lose that momentum that you had going through the season. Obviously, you'll forget about it. Your body will forget how to do it. So it's got to be a year round commitment.
Yeah. Uh, I would disagree a little bit. I wish guys would take December or January off or January, February off. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Get
I mean,
help.
there can be times when you're going at it a little harder than others, but
Right, for
obviously,
sure.
mhm.
For sure. Well, that's just me speaking. Okay. And then you went to Kentucky. What was the biggest transition coming from high school and then going to Kentucky? Power Five school, SEC. We most people who follow this know that. But what was the biggest transition you had?
Probably two main things that really stood out to me were obviously everyone is a Division 1 athlete. It's not like you're going against one other guy in high school on the other team. Everyone's up there at that level. The second thing really was the amount of film that you start to watch in college. Obviously, it changes the whole game. It's not really based on how well you are on the field, but how well you prepare off the field as well.
That is so true. Okay. Now, I talked to Deshaun Kaiser, a few years ago, and he had gone to Notre Dame. I mean, and I saw him. I think he left early, and he got there in the spring, I think. And then I talked to him in the fall, and or maybe it was late summer. I said, Deshaun, I said, what was the biggest transition? And he said, well, when I got there, he said, we didn't throw a football for like 2 months. He said, I don't care about that. He said, they
Hmm.
all know you can throw. He said, no, he said,
Yep.
but he said, we honestly didn't. He said, we looked at film and looked at film and studied film because they wanted me to know what the defensive coordinator was thinking and everything, where these guys were. He said, and it's kind of like you just said, Gunnar, he said, that's all we did. They said
Hmm.
because they know they can get your arm ready and things like that. It's kind of like what you're saying then. Okay, let's go back once and then with that being said, what do you think about high school kids watching video then? Quarterbacks watching video. What do you would you push that in high school then?
Yeah, I think it could be a major advantage. Obviously, there are teams who might not do it as much. I know when I was at Coffman, we probably spent an hour or two a week, split up every day after school, watching whatever cut ups we can find on Huddle or something. So anything over that would be obviously an advantage, in my opinion, if you're watching it at home, after school, anytime you got.
You know, and I've told this joke before, but I had Coach Trussell on quite a while ago, and he was laughing. He said when Coach Trussell, he said when he and guys like me, when I was a head coach, we looked at Super 8 to begin with, and then we looked at 16, and you had to run it back. But now it's such a great advantage to take advantage of the huddle and even watch other people, other quarterbacks on huddle. I
Mhm.
think that's such a any kind of video that you can get, and I think it's important for students of the game like you. And Kaufman's was pretty progressive in those days. I mean, they still are, but they were a little ahead of schedule, I think. But it's to see what everybody else is doing, what other defenses, and I think you can do it in the wintertime too,
Mhm.
in the off season and stuff. Okay, so that was a big change watching film, and we both agree. What would be another change?
Um,
I thought you said there were two major ones. What's the other one?
yeah, like
Oh,
I was saying,
yeah,
everyone at the next level is you in high school, if that makes sense. Everyone is that Division 1 athlete, that made it there, and you're playing against talent day in and day out, whether it's at practice or on the games on Saturday. So everyone is at that next level, and they know how to play.
and they want your job, right? I mean, you know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? It's cutthroat. and
Hmm.
it should be. But that's really interesting. What when you got there at Kentucky and you make those changes, what about the physical part of it? Where did you what did you do to get your body physically in shape for that?
Yeah. Um, it's crazy looking back at it. I think I was 180 pounds leaving Coffman my senior year. I think by my second year at Kentucky, I was up to 210 or something. So it's crazy what they can do. I'm sure every strength and conditioning program at the Division 1 level is very similar, and just the way they go at it throughout the off season, through the summer, through camp, just to prepare you for that season to get you stronger and faster. It's crazy.
And tell me, core muscles are really important, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. Core
Please tell
muscles every day.
spend a second on that because I would tell people that and they look like I just got off the boat from China or someplace. Tell
Yeah.
me, talk
As a
about core muscles.
as a QB, it's not always your shoulder, your arm throwing it far. It's
Ooh.
working your core. It's that torque you have to have as a quarterback to really sling it.
So you don't have to do big time bench presses and build up your upper body, right? Quarterbacks
No,
don't.
so it no. Sometimes you see guys get too big, and that can harm their motion. So it's
Oh my God.
not always in the shoulders or arms.
You are so good. I, I'm seriously. This is so good so far, and people need to listen to it. And the other thing I would tell you, baseball pitchers, if you look around their neck and arms up here, they don't have big, strong muscles. Pitchers don't because
Hmm.
they're makes them so flexible.
Hmm.
Okay, well, you made my day there. I think that you have. Tell me about the you had a chance to come back to Ohio, go to Ohio State, and that was really good for you all, wasn't it? I mean, did you learn? Obviously, it was going to be tough to beat out guys, but did you learn? What did you learn there? What did you learn at Ohio State to help as a quarterback?
Yeah,
To help you?
it was obviously a great experience. Never doubt a second of it coming back to Ohio State and getting playing for a team that I grew up loving and watching all the time. So obviously coming to Ohio State, I knew it was going to be a challenge. Knew it was going to be a step up from Kentucky, and it was. But everything I did, I had no doubts with it. So
So, is there anything that you learned coming here? Anything that added to your knowledge of quarterbacking?
yeah, I think with Ryan Day, he's unbelievable. Has a crazy offensive mind. Knows the game to a crazy extent. He'll tell you what every guy's doing before he does it, standing there on the sideline. So um, just learning from him, learning new concepts, offense and defense. Um, Obviously, learned a lot.
That's really good. I think Ryan Day I've been around him a few times and I really like his approach
Hmm.
and I like his knowledge. I like his approach and everything like that. That's really good. That's a couple of Joe Burrow stories. First time I saw Joe Burrow play, now everybody's good jumping on the bandwagon, but I got proof of mine. I saw him play down in the Plains, and after he did really really well. And after the game, I talked to him for he and his dad for a few minutes. I just said, build up your core muscles. I said,
Yeah,
whatever you do, build up your core. I don't care how strong you are, but build up your core. And his dad, Jimmy, later told me, he said, he took that to heart. So and he is strong now. He's obviously grown as a person, but if we can do that, they're going to put weight on you as
hmm,
a strength on you as a quarterback. And I think the other thing is, I don't know if this is known or not, but we all know the scuttlebutt about Ohio State and all that. But he said somebody asked him, and I know who it was, said, if you had to do all over again, would you do it? And he goes, yeah. He said, I'd do the whole thing over again because I learned so much. And I think that's
hmm.
huge. That's really huge. Okay, let's talk about what do high school quarterbacks have to have in your eyes, in your feelings. You've spent a lot of time on it. What do high school quarterbacks what you can go not so much physical because we talked about that. What's the other part of it? The mental part. What do high school quarterbacks have to have? And many of
Uh,
them don't.
yeah, in my opinion, if I was a quarterback coach looking for a high school guy, I'd probably look to see how he leads his team, whether it be the guy who opens up his mouth and says what to do to his teammates, or whether he's leading on or off the field by example. I think that's a huge part of what a quarterback has to do, especially in high school, to be able to prove themselves to the next level, to make it to that next step.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know if he has to be a great fundamental guy, but I think he really has to have the leadership qualities. Because I tell young quarterbacks, and you experience this, you
Hmm.
walk in that huddle with all those seniors and things aren't going very well. You better know what you're doing, and you better
Exactly.
to look them in the eye, and they have to know that you're pretty good. What would be another thing for high school kids?
Um, Probably just knowing the game of football, having that extra step ahead of the other guys. Obviously, you see kids in high school that are always questioning things a little bit. If you know the next step in the game, know what to do, say the quarterback can then become the coach on the field and be able to coach his teammates and know what they are doing as well as yourself. I think that can help them along the way as well.
That's really good. Give me one more. Let's you out with one more.
Um, I mean, I would say, I mean, obviously you said maybe not talent, but I mean, it's got to be a big deal. Obviously, you gotta fit the part as a quarterback in high school. I mean, there are, it's became a um, I don't know. Coaches are always looking for the perfect guy. He's got to be the right height, right weight, right speed. Got to be able to throw it so far. I mean, you got to be able to reach those measures at some point. So it's
Right.
got to be there.
Right. And plus, I think, I used to worry about technique
Hmm.
and the release and all that stuff. And I used to tell people, the most important, you start with your feet. And guys, again, will look at you like, yeah, everybody thinks you got to have that big, strong arm and gun.
Hmm.
And you have to have that. But I think you have to have feet first. And I get in discussions with people. I think sometimes they're trying to emulate the pro football players. And that's not the best thing because high school kids aren't strong enough yet to do
Hmm.
all those things. You know, we've talked about it once, you and I did about, how we release and follow through. And I think it's so huge. And hopefully kids will get back onto that. And
Hmm.
what advice as far as techniques, and we're going to be done here in a minute. Stuff goes so fast. Give me a couple ideas on technique. You're working with your middle school kids or your junior high kids. What do you talk to them about technique? What do you say?
Yeah, like you said, footwork is a major part. I probably spend at least half the time I'm working with a kid on footwork, doing footwork drills, because that's where it does start there. Um, Obviously there are certain things I kind of mention myself with technique to show them, but then other than that, every quarterback has a different throwing motion. I mean, you see that at every level, and
You
I mean, as long as the ball gets to where it needs to go, there shouldn't be a problem. I mean, there are some things that you need to do to help you with that motion, but other
tell
than
me
that,
tell me that.
one thing that I always make sure to teach my guys is getting that L shape in the arm up here and get it back and having that straight line instead of keeping it dropping it down and bringing it back up. So just the fastest way between 2 points is a straight line, right? So as long as you get it back and get it ready, then that's one of the bigger things I focus on.
That's really good. Although guys do wind up at the pro level too, I guess. I don't
That is
like.
true. Yeah.
But I think what you're doing obviously is you're learning. It's easy to wind up, for heaven's sakes. It's harder
Hmm.
to learn the correct way to do it and everything. What else would you say?
Um, One other big thing I focus on for the young guys, at least these middle school kids, seventh, eighth graders, is working on their follow through. Um, obviously as a young kid like that, you're 13, 14 years old, you're not as strong as you're going to be at the next level, and you're
Right.
still working to improve. So you got to have all your momentum, all that power you have left in the tank coming through every throw, and making sure you get that back leg to follow through and get all that power. You can't leave anything behind.
The arm coming down and putting money in your left pocket, right? Money in
Yeah,
your left pocket if you're a
ex-
right-handed
ex-
guy.
exactly. Yeah, follow through all the way down.
And I think young people learn that. And then if they want to change them as they get older, although I just talked to 3 college quarterback coaches, and I don't want to get into this, but they all talk about what you're doing. Teach the way you're doing. These guys, and all Power 5 schools. I mean, it's not, that's really, really good. It's good to hear that. Okay, let's talk. And I really, really appreciate you being on there. It's 20 minutes and it goes fast, and plus, okay, I should have put this on there somehow, and I can't now. How would they get a hold of you, Gunnar? How would they, somebody's watching this and say, hey, let's check them out. What would be an easy way to get a hold of you?
Easy way, probably through Twitter. I'm sure you
Oh,
can find my handle somewhere.
you
I don't
just
really
go
have a
search Gunnar Hoak, and on Twitter, right? And it'll come
yeah,
up.
yeah, yep. I haven't worked up to the place where I have a website or anything yet. Still trying to grow, but
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. And it gets better. And this summer, or this spring, do you get more? You go individual, but do you do groups too then?
haven't done any group work outside yet. But I have had a couple kids that are interested in doing that. Obviously, one good thing about doing the group work is having those kids come out and compete against each other and learning the other quarterbacks in the area. And obviously,
Don't bring defensive backs in, receivers and quarterbacks, because
mhm,
once you start bringing early, I'm talking about once you start, and boy, I've had guys disagree with me. Uh, if you start bringing those corners in and stuff, then everything gets to be competitive, and then all they're trying to learn goes out the, that. All their
exactly, yeah.
quarterbacks the same way. Once you bring that competition, then what do you prove? That's really good. Okay, Gunnar Hoak, I appreciate you, and I want to mention your brother Griffin, who's doing well at YSU and
Yep.
linebacker, right? And
Yes.
he's all healed up. He got banged up a little bit last year. And
Coming up on his senior season. Yep.
his senior season,
Yeah. Well, he has 2 more if he takes his COVID year, but this is his 5th year. Yep.
it's his 5th year coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go lie down, Gunnar. I'm feeling old. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very, very much for coming on my show. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.